Welcome to Season 4 of Might in Motion, the podcast that champions motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and might. I'm Mariana Kinney, your host, bringing you conversations with inspiring leaders and innovators who challenge the status quo and push boundaries in their careers and lives. Whether you're here to grow, lead, or ignite your own journey, we're here to keep you moving forward. Let's dive in. Today, I am extremely excited to bring to you Jordan Modiano. He's a founder, an entrepreneur, a franchisee, an autism super dad, race car driver, and motivational speaker. With an entrepreneurial spirit and a heart for making a difference, Jordan has built a life centered on passion and purpose. Raised on Long Island, Jordan entered the workforce straight out of high school, starting in the auto industry before transitioning to a successful career in advertising. In 2015, he founded Express Employment Professionals of Albany with a mission to help people find fulfilling jobs. His Saratoga office followed in 2019. He's not just a businessman, though. He's also a race car driver, a motivational speaker, and an autism super dad. His nonprofit, Racers for Autism, reflects his deep commitment to supporting families and individuals within the autism community. Jordan's dedication to his wife, daughter, and broader community shapes everything he does, whether it's on the racetrack or in his professional life. His motto, work hard, play hard, and change the world for one person at a time, impacts everything he does. I am really excited, Jordan, to have you on Might in Motion. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. That was one incredible introduction.
It was great. And you know what? I actually wrote down here that I love your bio because I always kind of have some notes beforehand. And it's got so much meat that it's really hard for me to know, like, where do I want to start? Because there's so many aspects. But I think I want to start what I think is the most important one, which is, how did you become an autism super dad? And what does that mean to you?
So a couple of things. I mean, there's definitely a play on words with that. So autism is a spectrum disorder. So it's ASD, autism spectrum disorder. And I go out of my way to do what I can for my daughter. So, she's the one with autism. And a couple of years ago, somebody said, you're like a Superman father. I'm like, like super dad? Yeah. She's got autism. So, hey, look, Rachel, we both have ASD. You're autism spectrum disorder. I'm autism super dad. We can get ASD shirts made. We've never done it. I've thought about it, but it's kind of where it comes from. And, during my bio, you were talking about the race car and starting the not-for-profit Racers for Autism. All of that has happened because of my daughter, so it's, I have no choice. I think I have to do everything I can to be her superhero. So that becomes super dad.
It's so special. We were talking a little bit in the green room, and you're mentioning that people are always watching. And that's whether or not you're in corporate America, whether or not you're a small business owner, a stay-at-home mom or dad, there are eyes watching you and how you react.
There are. And I think that's one of the things I like to share most with people, because you don't know who's watching. Mm-hmm. Years ago, I was in a race, and it was a 2-day race. Rachel was 2 day of racing. And that Sunday morning, I came home overnight and went back to the racetrack on Sunday. And Rachel was having a really rough morning on Sunday. I was like, why don't you come with me? And she came with me. It was a racetrack she'd never been to before. She didn't know a lot of the people there. She had no real friends. She knew a couple of the people I was with. And I was going to have to race in multiple races that day. In the very first race of the day, I got into a pretty bad wreck, flipped, went off the embankment, and it was just bad. Scared the daylights out of her, scared a lot of other people. I was okay. Vehicle ended up being okay. And they wanted to send me to the hospital. They were insisting I go, ambulance was there. They wanted to take me. I'm like, I'm not going anyplace. I'm okay. We get back to the trailer, and I slowly start putting things back together to try and race again. And,
Mm,
somebody sees me doing it, and a friend of mine comes over and starts helping, and somebody else starts helping. And somebody says to me, "Why are you doing this?" I'm like, "You just need to get out there and make one lap. If I can
mm-hmm.
make one lap and just show we don't quit, I'm teaching her something."
Yep.
Fast forward about 2 hours later in the day, or 3 hours later in the day, I'm feeling a little bit better. I've made a couple of, actually finished one or two other races. And I'm talking to a friend of mine who flew up to New York from North Carolina for this event. And he's like, "Jordan, you're crazy. Why are you doing this?" And I pointed to Rachel and I said, "See that little girl over there? She's going to have a tough life. She's going to have stuff in her life that's way harder than what I'm doing today. So if I can show her we fight through adversity and we don't quit and we do what we need to do, there's an opportunity today. I don't care how I feel. I don't care how I perform. I care that I just show back up." And he got it. He was like, "That's amazing." Well, here's what's really powerful about that. 3 weeks later, I see my name tagged in Facebook by a friend of mine. Said, "That guy is Jordan Modiano. He's one of the most incredible people you'll ever meet." So I'm like, "All right, that's a comment. Where's the comment from?" I scroll back up, somebody I don't know, never heard of, said, "I was at Lebanon Valley Speedway. I saw this dude flip. It was one of the worst flips I've ever seen. Then I heard him talking to somebody else and telling them the reason he's putting his stuff back together and getting back on the racetrack is so he can set an example for his daughter. I hope one day I can be that good of a dad." And I read that and I was like, "Oh, you impact. You don't
Yeah.
know what you don't know."
Yep.
I mean, how many other people saw that? How many people did he tell? Where does it end? I have no idea.
Yep.
But understanding that guides me on how I live my life much of the time. I'm human. I screw up. I make mistakes. I do dumb things. I do things I wish I didn't say it. I wish I didn't do it, but I try.
Yeah. No, I think it's really special. At the time that we're recording this, last week a major hurricane came across the southeast, and my family was up in Tennessee at the time, so which got impacted really, really hard. And the cabin we're staying with, a friend's cabin, we lost power, we lost water, we lost cellular. About a dozen trees came down. Thankfully, none of them hit the cabin. But it was an opportunity for my girls to see the best way you can respond to a crisis is to serve others, right? And so we
Mhm.
immediately help them with, like, let's start cleaning up, and how can we maybe help others around us, and cutting back fallen trees, and things like that. And sometimes it's just little things that help. Little hands can still pick up branches, right? And so it was just a great opportunity of, if you're feeling panicked, if you're feeling that you can't control, when you start serving others, it not only helps them, but it helps you.
And sometimes when you start serving others, so do others, and now you become a
Mhm.
community.
That's right.
And you mentioned something you saw on my LinkedIn for something that happened this past Saturday with my daughter when she had a meltdown. And the viewers don't know the story, and I'll give a quick brief synopsis of it. So I took Rachel. Rachel's my daughter. I took her to a dance class, and she had a meltdown before dance started. There's some things that led up to it, but I'll bypass those. She had a glass jar that we were returning to the dance teacher in her hand. And in the previous dance class, in the dance room, were a bunch of, I'm going to say, 4 to 6 year olds. And the parents were out in the waiting area. The waiting area had hardwood floors. And some of those 4 to 6 year olds, without their shoes, were running in and out. And something triggered Rachel. She immediately flipped out, screamed no, threw the glass jar, hit the ground, glass every place. And every parent and a couple of kids that were in the room all turned and looked at me. And I swear all I wanted to do was grab Rachel and run and leave. I didn't want to be there. I wanted out. That wasn't a really good option, and I had to figure something out. I don't know how I did, but I gave
Mhm.
Rachel a hug and I said, "Hey, we got to work on cleaning this up. Why don't you stand outside?" And I bent down and I started picking up big pieces of glass. And before I knew it, I saw feet kind of moving the glass around to kind of put it all into a pile. And then somebody blockaded the door so the kids couldn't come out of the dance room. And as Rachel started to calm down, and you can still see all the tears running down her face, and she was shaking. I mean, visually, she was completely ripped apart, and she was worse because she knew what she did. She
Yeah.
sat down in the waiting room, calm and watching, and a parent grabbed a broom, another parent grabbed a vacuum cleaner, and everybody started cleaning. And, when it was all said and done, Rachel was calmed down. And, I said, "Do you want to say you're sorry?" And she says, "I can't, I'm bad." And she wasn't. Um, and a woman comes over to me and she says, "I understand, I have autism too." And she shakes my hand.
Hmm.
And that just kind of blew my mind. And then the guy comes up to me and says to me, "Hey, you know what? You're doing a great job." And he shakes my hand. All I wanted to do is cry. Well, here's where it gets even better. We've had a rough couple of days with my daughter. She's going through some stuff. And this morning, I wake up and I have a notification from LinkedIn, and there was a comment. And the comment is from somebody I'm connected with who I didn't even realize. It says, "Hey, I was a parent and the kids in the class before Rachel's, and I was there. And the way you handled it was absolutely amazing. And the most amazing part is, Rachel, you can tell Rachel knew she was safe."
Hmm.
You talk about impact.
Yeah.
I I didn't know that. I knew everybody was watching me. I knew the spotlight was on me and on Rachel, but I never figured there would be something good coming out of it.
Yeah.
And there was. And we don't know.
That's
And
right.
as I get older in years, I talk to people, and a lot of people wonder about their impact and their legacy. And I tell them, you've probably been doing it all along and you don't know. And we never do. Most people don't take the time to actually think about it, and they're not lucky enough to have something come back to them. I've been lucky a couple of times, and I take those couple of times and realize it must be a lot.
Yeah. And you should be grateful for those moments, like when, because we don't always go back and tell the person that impacted us in a positive way. And there's so many opportunities to do that, right? You know, you talk as well about, changing the world one person at a time. In that moment, you're trying to change a moment in time for your daughter to help her. But that moment in time had that impact, ripple effect to everybody else in that room, and probably had other parents thinking like, oh, I probably should approach my kids with a little bit more grace.
Hopefully, you
Yeah.
know, hopefully no. Hopefully they're all better with their kids than I am. And but let's face it, we all have the opportunity to learn something and to do
Yeah.
something and pick up something. And if my actions, my behavior, my words can help one person or inspire somebody, then I'm winning.
Yeah. How
You
did
know,
you leverage that philosophy in, your career? Was this something you were doing all along?
I've probably been doing it my whole life, just never knew.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
think one of the first times that I realized this, or at least realized it since I've been running my employment agency, Express Employment Professionals, is when people come in on Fridays to pick up their checks. I've tried to make it a habit to meet people, say hello, ask them how their work is going, thank them.
Yeah.
And it was probably 2016, 2017. It's a Friday afternoon. We have this guy, Hispanic descent, and he comes in every Friday, and friendly guy. He rides his bicycle here to turn in his time card, pick up his paycheck. And he's doing maintenance from one of our clients who's a couple of miles away. And admittedly, there's a lot of people out working, so I don't know names. I don't know a lot of other stuff. And I'm not going to share a name now, but so he comes in on this particular Friday, and I get out of my office, and then I go up and I talk to him, and I'm shaking his hand and we're talking. And I said, "Can I ask you a question?" And it was great because he would call me Mr. Jordan. And I always just be like, "You don't need the Mister. I'm just
Yeah.
Jordan. I'm just a regular guy." He said, "No, Mr. Jordan."
Hmm.
So I said, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure. Why do you come here every Friday?" Like it makes no sense. You get on your bike, you ride here so that you can hand in the time card, which you could take a picture on your phone and text it to us. Your supervisor can email it to us. There's any number of ways you can do it. And you're coming for a check. We can give you a pay card. We can give you direct deposit. Like you do not have to come out of your way to come here. And he shakes my hand and brings me kind of up close. And he holds my hand with two hands. And he looks into my eye and he goes,
"Hey, listeners. I hope you're enjoying this conversation as much as I am. If you're finding value in these insights, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you're listening. Your support helps us reach more people and bring even more inspiring guests to the show. Let's keep building this incredible community together."
I said, "Can I ask you a question?" He said, "Sure. Why do you come here every Friday?" Like it makes no sense. You get on your bike, you ride here so that you can hand in the time card, which you could take a picture on your phone and text it to us. Your supervisor can email it to us. There's any number of ways you can do it. And you're coming for a check. We can give you a pay card. We can give you direct deposit. Like you do not have to come out of your way to come here. And he shakes my hand and brings me kind of up close. And he holds my hand with two hands. And he looks into my eye and he goes, "I come for you, Mr. Jordan." "For me? Why are you coming here for me?" And he says, and this is his impression because I don't agree with it. He said, "You're a big, important man, and you get out of your office and you come and talk to me, and I know that I matter."
Yeah. Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
And I was like, I won't stop doing that. That blew my mind. I shake his hand. He leaves. I turn around to Nicole, who's at my front desk, and I said, "Who was that?" Because I didn't know his name. Now I know his name now. I'm never going to forget his name. It's ingrained in my memory. And as soon as he left, I pulled my team together. I was like, "Hey, do we have any other people here?" "We don't." I said to my team, I'm like, "Guys, you're the ones who interview these people more than I do. You connect with them more than I do. You help them, give them jobs. If he thinks that of me, what kind of impact are you guys having?"
Yeah.
And you watch all their faces light up. And it was just, I was lucky enough to get the information based on my questions.
Yeah.
And then I shared it with my team, and we still talk about that and we still share that because let's face it, we're in the people business, and sometimes working with people is hard.
Sometimes all the time.
Could be. Any parent knows that. Anybody who owns a business knows that. You ask any manager, leader, boss, what's the biggest challenge? It's always the people.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard.
It is.
And as humans and the way our brains are wired, we go negative first. And just watch the news, watch the TV shows, watch anything, the negative sells. That's what sells. That's what demands the attention, not the good stuff. You can't turn on the news and hear all the great things that happened because there's far more great things that happen than bad things, but you only hear the bad. Same when it comes to the people. So we have to take our time as leaders of pointing out the good stuff. If we have, round numbers, 100 people out working through our employment agency and 5 people don't show up today, it's the end of the world, right? We have clients who are upset. We have people who are upset. These people didn't show up. Wait. 95% of the people did exactly what they're supposed to do. Some of them were there early. Some of them stayed late. Like, what about those? Like, let's pat ourselves on the back and think about some of that. And we forget that. And we forget that we make that impact. And some of those people didn't want to show up today. Some of those people weren't feeling great. Some of those people just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You know why they went to work? Because they felt loyalty to the recruiter who put them there. They felt loyalty to the leader or the person who hired them. And we need to remember that because that's kind of what keeps us all going.
Yeah. I mean, and I think of new leaders, and I've had the opportunity over the past 25 years to help a lot of new leaders and help them into those positions, but also grow. It's many times when you are now promoted from a great individual contributor to now a leader of others, you forget that you've got to say thank you, and that you've got to show appreciation and some humbleness of everybody has something going on. And when you can create those relationships, you can create community with your team. that's when the power really happens. That's when change really happens. That's when you create something so special.
But that's a skill. And
Yeah.
like you said, somebody who's a top producer or something, they get promoted. I don't always agree they're the right people to get
Mhm.
promoted. And I have
Yeah,
this conversation with our clients. Do you want somebody who knows how to lead people, or do you want somebody who knows how to make widgets?
that's right.
Just because you're your best widget maker or your best salesperson or your most productive whatever does not mean they can get the most out of people.
That's right.
And people confuse managers and leaders all the time. And it's two totally different things. You manage inventory, you manage finances, you can manage products, you can manage a process. You don't manage people, you lead
Lead
people,
them. Yeah. You
right?
create a vision for them. You create excitement for them. You create purpose. Like
You
that interaction you had with that one individual shows that you've created a community. And so therefore, because that community is there, you're seen as, you're the big guy, you're the boss, you're the like the because you're seen as being the leader of that community, and what you do impacts everybody.
absolutely.
And when you mentioned earlier, people are always watching. I remember, going into the office back in the day when I had to go into an office, and you walk the halls, and you see the one guy who's always like this. You're like, oh, he's really mad, or hey, what's wrong with you, Mariana? You're not your normal like self. And it's like, oh, I might not even be having a bad day. Maybe I just haven't had my coffee yet, or maybe I, didn't get enough sleep last night. But because I didn't show up in that moment with my normal bubbly personality, I would have people that would notice and they'd pull me aside. A direct report might pull me aside and say, "Is everything okay? Are you okay?" And you want to have people in your corner that are willing to say that, because that allows you to change or modify how you're approaching others and within your work community.
100%. For anybody who's ever been on a great team, it's comprised of certain things. And when I'm interviewing people to be on my core team, I always ask people, well, have you been on a great team? What was it? And you hear the standard things like, we all went after the same goal, or we all held each other accountable, or, we had great communication. And those are all fundamentals and foundations. And I try and dig deep and, hey, what's that based on? And at the end of the day, that team is based on trust. And where's
Mm-hmm.
that trust come from? Comes from the ability to be vulnerable with each other. And if you can be vulnerable, now you're safe. You
Yes.
can make a mistake, you can do something else, you're not going to get picked on, you're not going to get ridiculed. It doesn't mean you don't have to have performance. It doesn't mean that you don't have to have goals and KPIs and different things like that. You have to have all of that, but you've got to have that safety to be vulnerable. And I think as leaders, when we do it the right way, we create an environment where that runs rampant. And if it runs rampant, people are free to
Yes.
make a mistake,
Yes.
because managers don't want people to make a mistake. Leaders love when people make mistakes. Mistakes is how we learn.
Yep.
You ask any super successful business person, hey, did you make it on your first shot? What, are you kidding me? 700 failures. Well, that's 700 learning experiences. You know, I had a woman who worked for me years ago. Great attitude, showed up on time, worked really hard, got nothing done.
Mm.
And I remember I called her into my office and I'm like, hey, I've got good news and bad news. She's like, okay, what's the good news? I said, I want you to make mistakes. You need to make some mistakes. What's the bad news? If you don't make some mistakes by Friday, I'm going to fire you.
Mm.
And she's like, huh? You want me to make mistakes or you're going to fire me? I said, yes. I said, you're so afraid of making a mistake. You're so afraid of doing something wrong. You're actually paralyzed. It's
Mm-hmm.
taking you 8 hours to do what you should be doing in an hour. And while I appreciate your diligence, I'd
Mm.
rather you try and do it in an hour. And if you're not going to put us out of business, it's not like you're operating on a person. It's a life or death deal. Most of us aren't in those roles. Make the mistake and learn from it and move on.
Yeah. I love that.
And she struggled with it. You know, she came to me on Friday. She goes, "I'm not doing that. Like, this isn't
Mm,
right for me. I can't do that." And I was like, "Okay, it's not the right culture for you. I get it." But we want those people. I love people who fail and then learn and get back up and do it again. It's our
yeah.
human nature. I have that conversation with my daughter. Again, leadership lessons all the time. And I give them to my daughter and they fit every place else. And we were talking about it the other day. Like, I don't want to do this. I've never done it before.
Mm,
And I said, you know what else you never did before at a certain point in time in your life? She says, what? Walked.
mm-hmm.
I said, and you don't remember it. I do. You fell flat on your face. And I laughed. She looked at me like, really? I said, yeah. And I did this whole big thing. I'm like, and you got up and then you took another step and you fell. And you got up and you were like, whoa, and you fell. And then you got up and you're like, whoa, I got
Mm,
it. And then you fell and you kept doing it. But
mm-hmm.
guess what? I don't carry you anyplace anymore. A, you're too big for it, but B, you can get there on your own.
Yeah.
You went through this. It's human nature. And somewhere along the lines, somebody somewhere got this idea. It's you got to win on the first shot.
Mm-mm.
Doesn't make any sense. You have to fall
Mm,
down. You've got to fail. You've got to make mistakes. You know, and so many people think, hey, I'm going to start a new job. I'm going to be a success in a week. No, you're not. You're not going to know what you're doing for a year.
yes, that's so true.
Like, you're just not. There's
Yeah.
no way. Even if you've been doing it and you're going to do it with another company, the intricacies of another company, the culture of another company, the personalities, the people, the
Mm-hmm.
processes, it's it takes some time.
Yeah.
And you're going to make some mistakes and you're going to say the wrong thing to the wrong person, not knowing it, you know? It's just, I don't know. Now I'm rambling, aren't I?
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, and it kind of ties back to something we had talked about when we first met. You said if you're not learning, you need to go somewhere else. And I think that
Go.
really ties into the commentary on making mistakes. Mistakes allow you to learn.
Yeah. I mean, that's our mentality, grow or go.
Mm,
Grow or go, you know, and we don't want people to just grow in their profession. I want you to grow in life. I
yes.
want you to be better today than you were yesterday. And hopefully you'll never be as bad as you are today because tomorrow's better and the day's better and the day's better, you know,
Yes.
and every day gets better. And with that mindset, and I tell this to people and they look at me like it's crazy. You know, and that's my mindset. I want to be better every single day, even if it's, 1%. Atomic Habits from James Clear,
Right.
fucking 1%. But if I
Yeah.
get a little bit better every day and I stay healthy,
Yes.
my best day should be the day I die.
Yes.
And people are like, that's just horrible. I'm like, no, that's great.
No, it's
It
beautiful.
means it means a never ending quest,
Mm,
you know?
mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't let anything stop or get in my way. And
Yeah.
and it's hard, but I believe we should all be doing that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
why not?
That's awesome. I love that. Your best days are ahead, and but you have to be willing to take the risk. You got to be willing
You
to
gotta put the
learn
work
and to
in,
grow, and you got to
you
work.
know?
Yes. Yes.
I
Yeah.
I did something last year and, I joined a new organization because I wanted to level up my circle. I
Mm-hmm.
love my friends, I love my family, I love other people, but the people that I was surrounding with on a daily basis were not giving me the what's the word I'm looking for? The vision, the growth,
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
I was not getting exposed to the stuff I wanted to get exposed to. And with this new circle, and granted, I'm not with them every day, but I'm in the group and there's a network there. And I,
Mm-hmm.
I learned so much. And it's so motivating to know what some of these people have achieved, both in business and in family, and in investing and in their own health and in running marathons and in reading books and like, oh my God, I don't even compare.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's great to have that and be able to say, you know what? I want to emulate these people,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and when I can reach their level, and I don't know what's next, then I can find other people to emulate and go after. And I believe we're all supposed to be doing that.
Yeah. No, that's phenomenal. Um, people are going to hear this or watch this, and there's going to be some part that really resonates with them, or they're like, hey, I think Jordan might be the kind of guy I want to work with from a staffing perspective, or maybe have a racer, and I want to know what kind of races he does, and I want to be able to help with the autism cause through racing. What's the best way for people to reach and connect with you?
So depending on the platform they use, LinkedIn is great. You can
Yeah.
find me on LinkedIn. You can send me a message on LinkedIn. Um, I'm checking LinkedIn every day. I also have jordanmodiano.com. You go to jordanmodiano.com. You can shoot me an email. You can fill out a form. Um, I get those messages right in my email. It's, we also have Races for Autism, and I'm gonna have to give that a plug. That's a not-for-profit charity. We just started it this past year, uh, with the hopes of raising money for autism and raising awareness and acceptance for autism. And you can connect with me that way too. Probably the best way is just find me on LinkedIn, shoot me a message. And I do all types of things, whether it's staffing, leadership training, do a lot of motivational speaking, come out to events, inspire teams, inspire corporations. You can tell I love doing it,
Yeah,
and I love the ripple effect. If I could share a story that somebody then takes that story and, thinks of something on their own and they can share with somebody and change the world for one person at a time. But if I do it for one and they do it for one and they do it for one and
yeah,
they do it for one, I technically did it for 5 or 6 and it keeps going,
that's right. That's right.
pay it
No,
forward.
I love it. People who listen and watch know that I always got my pen with me and I'm always scribbling notes. And here are some of the things that I wrote down today that resonated with me. And there's a million others, but these really kind of stood out. So the first was, you take the time every Friday to meet people and thank them as they're getting their paychecks. And what that showed to you is that people actually show up, even when they don't need to, because we can do everything electronically these days, when they know that they matter and they feel like they matter. So when you create that sense of community, that sense of connectivity, you can really do some amazing things. Coming to the table without the negative first, but the positive, right? Find the positive in a situation will help you level your team up, level the people on your team up. We talked a little bit about, if you're not learning, go somewhere else. You had the go or go kind of mindset. If you're not growing in your life, you got to grow in your life, not just your profession. So as a leader, if you're a leader of a team, it's how do you think about people holistically, not just in this cookie cutter kind of scenario. And you got to put in the work. I mean, for you talked about expanding your circle. I too I've joined mentor groups that were outside of the companies I was a part of for the sole purpose of growth, of being challenged, of learning new things. And that helps you, I think, in all aspects of your life, your family, your career. We talked about how people are always watching. You don't know who, but people always are. And you gave us this really phenomenal story of a bad wreck where you flipped and people wanted you to go to the hospital, and you're like, no, I got to be a good example for my daughter, and and you started putting things back together so you could race. So when you started doing that, other people also started picking up the pieces to help you get to that mission. It wasn't just you. You led the way to bring other people together just so that she could see not to give up. And that then had an impact on others that you didn't even know because of that ripple effect of what you do in your day-to-day life, in the things that you maybe enjoy outside of work or in your job, has an impact way beyond what I think most people can see. And that can allow you to create a great team, and great teams go back to creating a great community, because when you have that sense of community, you have trust, and if you have trust, it allows people to be safe, and if they're safe, they're free to make a mistake, and if you're making mistakes, you're growing. So I mean,
Love it.
this was a phenomenal conversation, Jordan. I knew it was going to be, because in our prior conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today on Might in Motion.
I love it. I love what you're doing, and I think your platform is amazing. You're doing a great job,
Well, thank
and
you.
I'm honored to be part of it.
Well, I'm excited to see where you go. I'm excited to see, more about your racing on LinkedIn, because that's where I follow most people. And I'm just really excited to see what you're doing. And thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Might in Motion. Remember, every step forward counts, and the power to create momentum starts with you. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please subscribe, share, and leave us a review. It makes a huge difference. Until next time, stay inspired, stay mindful, and keep moving with might.